And it seems to me like 2024 feels a little like that. I know we've got the eclipse coming up. I mean, there's things happening all around the world, but do you mind giving me just whatever you're willing to share right now, your perspective of the energetics of this year of 2024 a little bit? Because I think about it a lot and I wonder what other people like you are thinking about it.
I mean, there's multi-dimensionality involved in people's sovereign right to kind of keep living how they want to keep living. And I'm seeing a lot of that. People have access to this brand new emerging consciousness and they're super excited. People are just seeking magic. They're seeking the wonder. They're seeking out their own soul. They're curious, right? Um, and that is a new emerging consciousness, and that is the consciousness of emergence. And that is the word that was given to me by the Council of Nine.
Hey everyone, it's Candace Craw-Goldman from quantumhealers.com. And today I'm talking to my dear, dear friend, Pamela Aaralyn. Hi, Pamela. I have missed you.
I have missed you too. We have so much. We have not talked, so this will be so authentically relatable in terms of people who haven't talked for a few months, and we typically
Yeah.
do, and we've been so busy.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to catch up with you.
I'm excited to catch up with you too. So I'm going to let you go first. First of all, you look fabulous, my darling. Just absolutely glowing.
Thank you.
Tell me all about what's new in your life. I mean, I know I've been watching some skating sort of videos and posts and pictures, but I would love for you to just catch my community up with what's new in your life.
Personally, professionally, what area? Spiritually? Like, what do you want to
I'm
know?
just interested in talking to you. What's
Hmm.
uppermost on your mind? And
Hmm.
yeah, spiritually is fine, but I know I pinged you because I am strongly in this going down this road of wanting to be stronger and healthier in my physical body. And
Hmm.
I feel that, you're on a similar trajectory there. So that is one of the reasons that I'm like, we just have to talk. So I definitely want to talk about that. But anything else on top of that that either plays in or is just timing wise?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I started that journey with physicality and connections with that um very, very recently. It has not always been my journey. I would dip in, dip out. And it kind of got to the point where I started to recognize like the uniqueness of the body as it's always being infiltrated with light, that it becomes this sacred temple. It becomes this, some people say ascension is related to a light body, but I say that we're taking that light into density, and it's very, very important to understand that on the psychological level, the physiological level, and if we miss that out on that level, then we don't have that form to experience anything else, in this world and to serve and to help and to assist, particularly in the ascension process, which is the reason why I started a physical journey. But I originally started it out of recognizing that I had faced a lot of fear in my life, but not actually physical fear in that deep way
Mm-hmm.
that when you become scared of something and you want to run, like fight, flight, or freeze. So myself and my spirit team were playing around a little bit with that. And of course, we moved to Michigan, and everything is either about hockey, ice skating, or snow, or the lake. And I thought, well, out of all those things, um, I think that I don't want to do it with swimming. That lake is incredible, but I'm gonna get a lot more fit before I take on that journey. So I thought, I will swim in the lake on the green flag days when it's nice and safe, but I wanted to delve into that physical journey of fear, not just the emotional journey of fear, using astral travel to get past it, or visiting my Akashic records, or doing all the things that I know how to do in that realm. I wanted to address it as that fear was coursing through my bloodstream. I wanted to address it with the blood specifically. I've had a lot of messages since this journey about plasma and about the blood being the life force, and that the plasma specifically is the part of our life force that is integrating this information, these, what we call downloads, upgrades, DNA activations, all the things that we know of. All that is your breath being a tool to work you through fear and bringing more light into the plasma. The plasma builds the blood. The blood does everything else. The blood in the heart and that little mind within the heart, that brain within the heart does everything else pretty much in my exploration in that order. So I started developing some little techniques oriented with prayer blessing. I had learned that prayer wasn't about religion, not that I didn't know, but it's still a 4,000-year-old condition in humanity. So, of course, I asked my spirit guide Dee about that, and she said, well, it's, over 4,000 years old. Do you expect that it wouldn't control some part of your brain lifetime after lifetime? So you need to start praying and take that back for yourself. So a part of that was learn that prayer is a lifeline, a communication tool for my soul, nothing to do with any division or religion or condition thing. That was the first thing. And then I learned how to not just bless water, but understand that my blood needs that water because of the plasma. And then I started to bless the blood. I started to, you know what I mean? Like as I was stretching, as I was doing my yoga, as I was working out or doing off ice training, I started to bless my blood, my bones, my sinew, the water actually in my form, for proper circulation and pranic life force. So prana has been a big part of my journey right now. And you cannot experience that 100% like without really understanding this temple.
Being in the physical.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the day for our chat has been coming up, I've really been thinking, we haven't talked since you moved to Michigan.
Yeah.
And some of the thoughts that have been going through my mind are, I am continuing my fascination with water and its role in consciousness. And so to play up some of this stuff, I remember I asked you before you moved, I'm like, why Michigan? And you're like, water. I have to be by the water. And okay, so there's that. And then ice, of course, that's frozen water and, another state of water. And there's the different states of water. And I've always thought, Pamela, that water has a component or has a part or it has a role in almost everything. And one of the things I've thought of is when people repeat prayers, especially if you're doing it with your breath, what are you doing? You're releasing moisture to those words out into, the energy field in front of you, which is also, I think, connected to water. And I'm very interested in all of exactly the things that you're talking about, the plasma. And some of my more recent forays into this exploration is understanding that, and this is all going to be in my upcoming course. I'm not sure when I'm going to release this, probably sometime in March. By then, my course should be completely filled. It's at the end of April, but I'm just getting myself timing wise, thinking about how I'm going to talk about this, make sure I don't talk about it something in the future that's the past. But so my upcoming course, yes, it's up. I think we'll release this before then. The fascia, it's surrounded by like this little sheath of water.
Yeah.
And the fascia has been known, and massage therapists and body workers will know this. We hold a lot of memory and a lot of energy within that system in our body. And I think all that's connected too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, there's a lot of, my family thought I was nuts going into figure skating. I don't fit the mold. Like I've lost, I think I'm on the 60-pound marker now, but I am still like a 198-pound woman, and I am an Amazon. I am tall and I am muscular. And I look like a person who works out, but I don't look like a person who belongs in the figure skating world. So it's hilarious. It's fun to break the mold like that and to evidence to myself that yes, bigger women do skate. And we're strong. we could do it. But the funny thing about the fascia is I fall a lot. And, big old bruise on one of my things here. I always get coming, and when I'm showering, I'm like, oh, look at that. I remember that
There's
fall.
another
And
one.
look at that. There's another one. But I don't really feel it for very long. I've had some crazy falls. I've had a concussion. I've had falls that should have broken parts of my body, but because I strongly believe that anyone can do this, not just me, but because I pray when I jump.
Wow.
I do. And I typically will do it in this very, very unique way. And it involves input of grace into my body, breathing in light. And then as I'm exhaling, I count. And that count is the prayer. Typically, I would count 1, 2, 3, but lately I started counting 1, 1, 1. So that was very interesting too, because it felt like I was counting the word, not the number. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
as I would go into, say, a jump, I would bend into the jump, 1, say that. Say it again. When I jump and when I'm in the air, that's 1 again. And when I land, that's kind of not an out loud one, but sort of like, oh, I did it. I did it. This is the grounded one. This is back to the ground. So there was a different order of 3 to 1 in the Trinity and counting to 1, 2, 3, incorporating the Trinity prayer, and then doing it just without numbers, but just 1, 1, 1. It felt like resetting my brain out of that fear. But I also noticed that the more I did that, interestingly enough, I would get thirsty immediately after. If
Wow.
I did it in that specific way, that I would
Wow.
have to rush over to the side and, right after my lesson with any of my 3 coaches, and I would just be exasperatingly thirsty and I have to like replenish electrolytes and all the stuff.
So
Um,
you got a concussion skating.
yeah.
Okay, so let's dial it back to you talking about fear then. I mean,
And then I had to recover from that and get back on ice. Like in a week, I was back on and still skating the same things that made me fall.
well, so talk to me about that. I mean, I bet there's a lot going on there. So, like, if you're doing this to conquer fear and then
Yeah.
you hurt yourself seriously,
Yeah, you do. And
then
you're going to hurt yourself. It's inevitably that you're going to hurt some aspect of your form when skating. It's just the nature of the sport. So,
yeah,
especially as an adult skater, I didn't skate as a child at all. No background, nothing.
it's kind of like horseback riding. It's like, you're probably going to fall.
Yeah.
At some point, the
Some
fall, if
point, you're
if
going to
you
fall.
don't, if you're not ready for that or not prepared for it or not willing to accept that, then that's not the sport for you.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So how was it getting right back up on the ice that fast after a concussion?
Oh, it's hard. I would sit on the sidelines and it would be time for my lesson, but I would skate a little bit and then sit down and skate a little bit and sit down. Um, and I felt that fear just so overwhelming. And I remember saying to my coach, I said, when is it that I'm just going to be able to, how all the other skaters around me, they come, they put on their skates and they hop on ice and they're just boom, right on the ice. They're ready to go. They're doing their warm-ups. They're skating happily. Me? Mm-mm. I had to get on and I kind of crept over to the side and I'm like, okay, we're going to practice our little crossovers today while holding onto the wall, and now I find that it's interesting. Like I'm still doing that, like doing the harder things, now that I've progressed a lot in 7 months from that to jumps, and spins, 1 foot spins and stuff. So I still will go over, if I'm scared, I will go over to the wall and just put about a hand's length of space between myself and the wall and just breathe and go, okay, you're doing this on the wall. So we'll do it on the wall. We'll do this, the hard spin on close to the wall. Now we're going to move a little bit away and do the prayer counting and take some water. We didn't do it. It's okay. We're going to go back to the wall and we're going to count and try it again. It feels fine because we're on the wall. That's my safety. I don't know why. I've face planted the wall many times too. I have no idea why I consider that my safety. I have literally smacked into the wall and slid down like a cartoon. And so people run over and they're like, doesn't that hurt? I'm like, no, not really.
Oh my
But
gosh.
I don't even feel it anymore. I'm so used to it. So but I would go back and I would do it maybe a little bit, maybe a foot further away, and then a foot further away. And then if my brain got in the way and said, "Oh my God, you're 5 feet away from the wall," then the whole fear process would start all over again, and I have to go back to the wall. So water and prayers and blessings help a lot for that, because I have to be congruent with my actual belief system during the process, and I can't think about it. You can't think about it too much. If I stayed and thought about it, I would not get too far away from the wall. But when my coach is with me and I have to do those same things, she's, "How's work? How's this? How's that? Okay, jump." She does not let me have a chance to think about it. So I just one, one, breathe, breathe, jump, breathe, land, breathe, spin. That's it. There's no thought process. You can't give yourself time to think during fear. It will halt everything that you do.
That's amazing that water plays into it again.
And then I get thirsty afterwards. It's like, oh, that fear was so draining. Oh my God.
Need some of that. Need some of that. Well, that's amazing. So the particular move that you were doing when you had your concussion, is that one any harder than any other move? Like
no, now
nemesis or
it's
something?
like night. It was such a simple move. It was a crossover.
Oh, okay.
It was like crossing one leg over the other.
See.
And I
Wow.
got scared and leaned forward, and then somehow ended up losing my balance and going the other direction. I don't know how that happened, and just doing a straight back fall,
Yikes.
straight on my head.
As somebody who I always wear a helmet when I ride. That the English riding tradition, the fox hunting that I've done, or the riding on the East Coast, that was very accepted. In the Western tradition, some of the rodeo and cowboy events, there's very few people who will wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Which
Nobody wears a helmet in skating either. It's like unheard
I know,
of.
and
No,
let me ask you, like, why not?
no. Well, I mean, it's probably vanity. It looks terrible, but aside from that, it also, like, to have something on your head and covering your crown chakra when you're deeply trying to connect with your form is intensely distracting. So you're trying to turn
Isn't
your
that
head with this
interesting?
strap, and you have to be very mindful when you're skating of where
Yeah,
you're going and
yeah.
who's behind you and
Good
who's in
point.
front of you, and you share the rink with people, tons of people. And that helmet would never work because we
What
would
a
turn.
soft padded thing. I'm just
Oh no, I did the thing. I got the butt pads, I got the helmet, I got the knee pads, I got wrist pads, and I put them all on, and I walked out there, and then I wondered why I couldn't skate. I had like padded
Michelin
myself from
Man.
like, and yeah, and I couldn't even move. And like
Yeah.
some of my coaches saw me. It was at an alternative rink that I don't skate at very often. And one of my old learn to skate coaches saw me, and she was giggling, and she was doing like this. Like I could read her mind. She's like, "That's never gonna work. She's gonna strip all that off." And 5 minutes later, this was gone. Another 5 minutes, the
Yeah.
wrist pads are gone. Then the knee pads are gone. I'm like, I
Well,
can't
they
believe
worked.
it.
They fulfilled what you needed them to do. I mean, which was to get you out there and then
Yeah.
discard them and keep
Yeah.
going.
But it doesn't really work anymore because I've trained myself to fall. So I know what falling is going to feel like. So that's the other part of fear in association with physicality. I know exactly how I'm going to fall. I've done it. I know exactly. I've watched other people fall that fall during spins and falls during
Yeah.
spirals. But what's so silly about it is all three of my main coaches have said this about me. They're like, you are doing things that you shouldn't be doing at your level that are intensely dangerous, and you're not afraid of them, like spirals. I started like basic 3. I was like, I want to do a spiral. And she's like, don't do spiral. I'm going to do a spiral. You're going to fall and it's going to hurt so bad. I want to do the bunny hop. No, that's going to hurt when you fall on that too. And she's like, that's going to be your worst fall. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's just not. But if you ask me to do something simple like a waltz jump, I am intensely terrified of it still. So I have to do all the breathing practice. That is the easiest jump in figure skating, right? I'm not scared of spirals and weird things, but I'm intensely scared of. You can ask me to do a ballet hop and I'm not scared of it, but I'm scared of a spiral. Why? It doesn't make any sense. So fear doesn't make sense. It's not like it's protecting you.
Have you carried some of these interactions and better understandings of fear into other parts of your life?
Yeah, especially the one technique. I had downloaded that a long time ago. And I was just practicing breathing up and down my spine, saying the word one, sort of like how that calming energy of when you count sheep, except I just knew I wasn't counting a number. And as that breath would go up from the base of my spine all the way up to the crown, then I would retain it here for a bit. And it felt like there was a retention happening, in the brain. And then from then, the exhale was easy. It was just a gentle, slow breath back down the spine. But I noticed that sometimes it would stop in my heart and it wouldn't go any further. And that's how I started getting connected to the brain and the heart and the understanding of the brain and the heart. And we can't have the access to the brain and the heart without understanding how the essence of blessing works and how water works. You can't, you have to understand that we cry when we're upset. There's a reason for that, for
Right.
those, everything that we do involves water. At the beginning of the day, we take a shower. At the end of the day, if we're dirty, what do? We take a shower. When we're thirsty, no matter what we do, if we're thirsty for knowledge, we get thirsty in our body. If we have been holding fear for a long time, it's draining and it feels like a drought inside of you, and you don't actually feel things when you're holding fear. It feels like you've had a legitimate drought inside of your heart. And you will thirst, not just for water, but for the purity of the essence of life and consciousness itself. And that is the quintessential journey for every spiritual seeker. That's what we're all here for. And that does involve water. Absolutely.
Do you have special treatment of water in your new home?
I don't feel that way. I have special blessings of water, but I drink water from the tap.
Yeah.
I don't have any fear surrounding it. I don't feel that it's contaminated. I don't feel the need to filter it. I bless it and drink it, the end. I just don't feel that way in my reality.
How is the lake played out to your day to day?
No, it calls me. It just calls me. And you don't want to go out there because you also don't want to be cold. It's freezing during the winter. So I haven't been out there yet to see how the ice affects the lake. And I'm super curious to see that. But I did have an interesting experience with Lake Michigan almost immediately upon moving here. And I was with one of my kids. We were on a jet ski. And he wasn't supposed to be riding it. He's dangerous. So he flips it, and I was in the back of it. Again, I'm used to taking falls. It's no big deal. We're exceptional swimmers. We really weren't worried. But we didn't know how to get this jet ski back over. We knew that they had gone over this, but we weren't paying attention because we were so excited just to get out there. And you're like, check, sign the form. Let's go. And I just didn't remember. And
so it was upside down.
It was upside down. Yeah. And we were in the way outside the boundary of where we should be, where their jet ski rental, where they say, don't
You're
get
such a rule breaker.
Yeah. So we were out there and it was quiet, like no boats. We were far away from anybody, so far out there. We couldn't see land. We couldn't see anything. That's how far we were. Miles out. Yeah, we never told anybody how far we went because we knew we'd get in trouble.
Did you get it over then?
So in the midst of just kind of giving up on trying to get this jet ski turnaround, and just our fear was preventing the logic of, oh, hello, if we both stand up on the other side, it'll flip. Like the logic. It was like, that's what fear does, right? So we just kind of just started enjoying swimming and trying to pull it back. But it's dumb because the waves of Michigan are
and it's miles away. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just like swimming and pulling, but the waves are going the opposite direction. So we just give up. And we're just like laying there talking about our lives. We're thinking, well, somebody will come out here because they'll recognize that we're gone. They never came. We're out there like 45 minutes. And we're like, well, it's a good thing we know how to swim. They'll come eventually by sunset, right? And we were just kind of in this really silly mode. And suddenly there was this green light up underneath the jet ski. And I said, did you leave? Is there a light on in the key switch? Is there something there? He's like, no, it all shuts off when it goes upside down. I'm like, swim under there and look. Yeah, I'm not swimming under there. You swim under there. So I swim under there and there's this light and it's coming up. It's not coming from the jet ski. It's coming from the sand. And it was fairly deep. So I'm like, look at this. He's like, what the heck is that? because this was my kid who has no belief system towards any of this.
Sure.
He was like, that's weird. I'm scared. We got to go. Like the immediate fear.
We're out
And
of here.
not me. I'm like, aha, I'm swimming down to it. Like I had the opposite direct feeling. And I'm like, I want to go to it. I want to go to it. I'm like, and we kept trying and trying. And the more I would go to it, I could feel my form being pulled into it. And for some reason, I didn't have fear. I wasn't worried about, oh, am I going to get out of breath? And I hear him calling, you're going to get out of breath. Come back up. Like I could hear him calling, come, stop it now. You're scaring me. I must have been down there for like 5 or 6 minutes.
Pamela, how deep is the water there?
At least that's what he tells me. It was very, very deep. Like we couldn't actually see the bottom. And the light just kept going and going. I could never find the end of it. It just kept going and going and going.
What do you think it was?
That night, of course, I did the astral travel journey thing because, that's what I do. And I got a vision of Atlantis and the experience of the Atlantean lifetime. And I felt like it was a portal energy to inner Earth.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for catching me up with that. For me and for probably both of our communities, I know that a lot of people are so focused sometimes on, the ethers and things that don't have anything to do with physicality. And I've always found that that's probably not the best way, is to forget your body and to forget the physical and to forget the part. You came here to be human, and being physical is really part of that human thing. And a great deal of what I'm watching too is my dad. I mean, I go to bed every night grateful that he can still walk and, on his walker. And so far, and it's been 4 years, coming up on 4 years, just like a couple of weeks, that he's been at our farmhouse. But I don't know how long he'll be able to do that. And I don't know what will change when that happens. And so there's always that to think about. But then I think about my own self, my own body. And, I'm 62, he's 93. And that doesn't seem that far away. That might sound crazy, but it just doesn't seem that far away. 30 years goes by like that. It really, really does. So that's another reason that I've kind of reinvigorated myself to be physical. And so how all of that started was after my husband had a health event, he was inspired to hire a personal trainer. Mm-hmm. And I always, and it was probably ridiculous, but I had this sense. My sense of that was, so I'm mostly speaking to myself and about myself, but I was like, I don't know why I would ever hire a personal trainer. I'm at the farm. I'm doing carrying stuff and walking and lifting and horseback riding and when I can, or whenever it's really physical stuff, having acreage like that and taking care of it. And I've always been way more into that than my husband. But he would take himself into the gym, and I was happy he was pursuing health. So I'm like, that's great. You just keep doing that. But I always thought, I don't need to do that. I'm really physical out here. And then a couple things happened, and I was like, I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to book a session with your trainer, and I kind of want to see what that's about and if there's any value in that for me. And what I realized was I wouldn't call it lopsided or anything, but I definitely used some muscle groups way, way more than others. And I was very strong in some ways and not very strong in other ways. And my limitations and my feels like weaknesses, maybe that's the wrong word, but certainly the places that I could use the most improvement, it became glaringly obvious when I started working out with a trainer. And I was so shocked by that, Pamela. I really was. I thought I had some overall good physical health. And I don't think that was an incorrect, but I had no idea. I had no idea about the parts of me that really needed some improvement. And I've really enjoyed watching my progress. It's been a little more than a year. And I have a partner. And we need each other because otherwise, we'd blow it off too often. We just would, because she's a business owner too. And so we keep each other honest in that way by showing up. And we're pretty closely matched, even though she's 20 years younger than me. She's taller and she's got some leg strength, and my strength seems to be in my arms. And I was a little surprised by that with all my horseback riding. But since the 4 years of having dad, that I've really been limited in that. But I lost a horse about a year ago. My good steady gelding, I lost him, and just before Thanksgiving of last year, I brought home a new horse, and I just decided that I was going to do it. I didn't want to wait to get any older, and I kind of did it as well, if you have that guy out there, maybe you can arrange it to get out there a little bit more often. And that is happening. But Pamela, this horse that I got, his name's Hickory. He's kind of like a rocket ship. I mean, I've had lots of horses. I've been on lots of horses. I've lots and lots.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of going fast. I'm not afraid of jumping. I'm not afraid of a lot of things. But it feels like I've been like driving some sort of Toyota or maybe a Mazda sporty car. But
no, you got the Bugatti.
It's exactly what it is. It's like I'm on him, and because you know this because when you can feel and sense energy, and what's fabulous about this horse is he's impeccably behaved. So he never launches or does things that he shouldn't do, but I can feel the power underneath him, and it is astonishing. It's way beyond anything that I have felt in a very, 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 very long time, and maybe ever, really. The sort of explosive power of this horse. And again, I've been on lots and lots of horses over all these years, but to have that underneath me is, well, it's a thing. We're getting to know each other too, and I'm not putting him in high gear until
right.
I know how he behaves and reacts to certain stimuli or other things like that. So we're going kind of slow, really. I'm not saying I'm just plodding along with it, but I mean, I'm putting miles on him. Let's put it that way, as I, get to understand what's going on in his mind and his body. But to feel that energy underneath me it's been quite a trip. But I love that too, that whole connecting with another being that is connecting with the earth. And I can really feel that sort of dual partnership connection. The first thing I did too is pull off his shoes so that he could actually feel the ground underneath him, because he's always had, shoes on. And so he's getting used to that and living a different kind of life up here. But he's part of my stay physical plan too. And what I found is it's so great to move the energy, that it's big washouts of energy. We spend a lot of time on the computer. We sit with clients. We do quiet meditations and things like that. And getting really, really physical by push-ups or, any of those things, riding horses, skating, swimming. I haven't given it enough credit. I've always been an outdoor person, but I'm reinvigorated to spend a lot more time in my physical body and giving it, a lot more time, not just a little bit, but I write it in my calendar. I schedule myself for that. I didn't used to do that before. That's new for me this last year. It's like, people are like, can you? Nope. got an appointment then, and a lot of times that appointment's with me,
That's how important that is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
No,
And
and I
I,
love what you said about the explosive energy too. I really related to what you said because that is one of the many reasons why I wanted to do figure skating, because I recognize in sports there is an explosivity in the energy, and it felt a lot like fully maximizing your Kundalini energy. So when I actually go up into the jump and land one, which is rare these days because I'm just on the beginning levels of jumping. But when I actually do that and landed, it feels so good because it's like not only did that energy become explosive, but it became utilized. And I find that when you can utilize your energy in your form, that is the overall reason why you're here. Sacred action is going to be important in the ascension process because then we are grounded in all aspects of us. And that was incredibly important for my journey. So I really related to what you said about that explosivity and
yeah. Yeah, really enjoying that. So let's shift gears a little bit and tell me what you're focusing on with your work and with your students and your community and clients, and where's your focus now there?
I'm going to eat my words. It always happens like in my career, in my journey spiritually as well, and just in general, that we fall resistant to our path and we're like, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that because I would rather do this. And I'm not going to do that because it's my own journey and I want my own journey and my own work. And as it turns out, I'm deeply guided by Dolores still. And even though it is my own work, it's so guided by her every step of the way. So what I'm doing now is called Humans from the Future. And I'm using a unique process of channeling, astral travel, and bilocation. And I have to be very physically strong in order to do it. I could not do it until I had that piece of my life really resolved. And if I mess up, I have little mess up days, little cheat eating days or whatever, can't do it. If my energy isn't really ready for that, if the form isn't ready, I can't do it. So it requires a lot of responsibility to be able to do this. So I learned to circumvent time. And I learned that not only can we do this, but I can take another version of me and project it into an intentional point of time in the future. And then I can stay there as long as I want without losing time here. And I can get some work done and then come back and tell people here. So I call that work Humans from the Future, and I've been writing about it and doing channelings about it and giving people access to different versions of dimensionality based upon their current alignment. And I'll go into a certain year, like 2028 or 29, or sometimes up all the way into year 2300 has been my longest time that I've gone so far. And it's just like, okay, here is your 3D alignment. It's an alignment. Let me tell you what probably needs to change. And I will make my body a barometer, like sort of a holder of that energy. And then I can tell my facilitator what I see that's going on as they're guiding me through the journey. So that is what has been going on with me. Obviously inspired by my spirit guide, Dolores. And sometimes she chides me a little and she's like, no, Dolores, I'm not going to work with you because I have my own work. And here we are. Here we are.
I don't get too far away from my Dolores energy.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
She's a part of how I think about almost everything. I have a lot of smiles come across my face when I think of how she's learning things where she is too. That's the part that really interests me.
Mhm.
Is waiting and understanding and knowing that she's on her own exploration journey and learning, and every once in a while throws back a tidbit or an understanding, but not much, because of course she doesn't give a whole lot away about what she's doing. But that's some of my favorite parts of trying to communicate with her these days, is sort of how she sees where her expression is and how
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what she has shared with me is that she's on an exploration of time right now, on all the facets of time and how to work within that construct and honor it. And also how to not believe so much in time that it's going to limit you.
It's
So,
exactly right.
and she catches me like during my Humans from the Future. She's like, and now you see, you become afraid. And then this happened, So as I'm exploring and out there and bilocating and in this whole other world in the future, I also have her right there to just be whispering in my ears saying, okay, do you notice you stayed an hour longer this time, but it didn't show up in your other reality? Why is that? And then we have to talk about it.
Interesting. Some of what I understand about some of that that's going on is there's habits and things we do in our daily life that keep us in a fixed time. And if we can let some of that go, then some of our potentials open up. But there are things and clocks have a lot to do with this. And looking at clocks and checking clocks a lot too. Yeah. And I have some very specific times that I make sure I do not look at that clock, because that would absolutely ruin the potential of whatever moment there was in front of me, and lock it into something else, or into a different way.
It does. And I find that like people in my life aren't necessarily understanding this. For example, like I'm never late for my teacher, like my figure skating coach, but now I'm working with 3 of them. There's like one that I go to that's like my safety, but she kind of pushes me and is hard on me at this, and she's my main coach. And then I have another one that I see kind of not as often as that one, but still typically once every couple of weeks, who will kind of give me another view of, hey, your foot's too far down, or like the technical view. And then I have this other coach that's teaching me ice dancing, which is a whole other sport. It's not like figure skating. And to me, it's even scarier. And I thought I was like going to get the easy route, but that's even scarier because you have to skate in a serpentine pattern and avoid everybody else on the ice and not hit them, which is difficult, but I regress. I had like gotten so busy in one lesson, and I had back to back. And I got so busy with one of them that I totally spaced the other one. And
Oh no.
she was sitting there waiting, and I was like, oh gosh. So now I'm having to deal with the whole, like, not everybody's on my time and wavelength. Then I have to also honor the practicality of that as well.
Sure. Yeah, because we're still humans and we still live in this practical place.
Yeah.
We have to keep the stuff going, for sure. For sure. And so your beautiful Emmy, she's skating too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how's she doing?
She is in a weird phase, like in this phase where she's also powerfully, I'm so proud of her, like honoring and finding her own identity, where she's not afraid to tell her coach no, but there are natural consequences of telling your coach no. You will not progress. So she's kind of in this phase where her coach bumped her up to this whole new level, and then it was too stressful for her. So now she's telling the coach, no, I don't want to do that. I can't do that, and kind of honoring her own space and identity, but then also facing the consequences of that as well. And she has another competition coming up here in a couple weeks. So
How old is she now? She's such a young lady.
she's 11 going on 16. She thinks she's so much older. She wants a cell phone. She's all into like texting her friends. They have a Discord channel where all the little girls talk to each other, and they talk in meme. It's that kind of a situation. And I'm like, what are you even saying? The other day I was driving her to her bus stop, and she goes, oh, you're so Coachette today. And I said, what is that? What's Coachette?
What is that?
I still don't know. Some young person will have to tell us when they see this.
Oh my gosh.
I think it probably means elegant and pretty, but that was just my intuition, but I don't really know. So we're like coming across that pattern in parenting where we're trying to she's kind of embarrassed of me now, and I'm not cool anymore, and I'm having to let her fly. I'm having to let her just explore her world, and I stand aside and give her just enough of a rope that she's safe, but I stand back without intervening in her friendships and her journey. And that's been a challenge for me as well, because we were just so tight. Like, she was one of my kids we were just like this, and now she's finding herself as she should. And we are both learning from it.
So how do you, we started this conversation out talking about fear. I imagine you're watching her and she has to deal with some of, well, you just finished saying that, so I'm afraid to do that. But I guess what I'm asking is, as she's watched you deal with your fear, what's that been like? Like watching her watch you deal with fear, because you're both doing the same thing.
She is like, then she tries to come back and coach me. She'll see me try to do something and is incorrect in her mindset because we have different coaches. So my coach will teach me slightly different than, and when I do the waltz jump her coach's way, I fall. I can't do it that way. When I do it my coach's way, it's fine, right? So I just had to explain to her, different coaches, different strokes, different, but she's like, no, 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 this is how you do it. This is how, no. And she's very particular and she's watching me do my off ice practice because we go to jump class together once a week. And then we practice off ice, occasionally in our own home and in the exercise room. And she's like, no, 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 don't do it that way. Your arms are to be like this when you jump up. They're not to be like that behind you. They have to be in front of you. And I'm like, but if they're in front of me, I'm gonna lean forward. I can't do, you're a little person. I'm top heavy though. So I don't put my arms out and like in front of me.
Physics, Emmy, physics.
Yeah. And we have like our little explorations where I said, well, Emmy, I said, I'm just really afraid. And I know that, my coach is going to make me jump today. She said, today's the day where I'm jumping without holding her hand. Today's the day. I'm just going to have to use my own techniques and just do it. And I'm a little afraid. And she said, you just do it. It's rude to not do it. You can't be rude to your coach. When she says to do it, you just got to breathe and jump and do it. Granted, she's not applying that advice, which is interesting, but that's what she tells me. So I was applying my own advice. And yesterday, finally, my coach said, yeah, I just want you to do that. And I did it. I didn't jump well, but I did it. And I just followed my own techniques and it worked fine. I didn't fall. Nothing bad happened. I didn't land the jump perfectly at all. It looks bad, but I did the jump, So
I'm finding myself thinking about all of the students that I've talked to on the forum about doing the regression work. And it's funny how often I would reference ice skating.
Yeah.
I would say, when you watch someone who's ice skating, who's done it for a long time and does it well, it looks effortless.
It's not.
It just looks effortless, but it takes a lot of practice for it to look effortless. Yeah. And I think a lot of people have thought that watching some of the back and forth of leading consciousness exploration. Mm-hmm. Well, as you're watching somebody who has a lot of experience and who've done it for a long time, or some people who are just quite natural, it just seems like the next question or the next exploration step or whatever just seems really natural. It seems very obvious or whatever until you're the person
doing it
that's sitting there.
Yeah. And it's just like, Mom, you just jump, you just breathe and you just jump. You don't say no, you don't think about it. You just breathe and you count and you jump.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I did that. I was breathing and counting and jumping. And that was what was working just yesterday. But she was like, you can't do that. It's so rude. You can't be telling your coach no.
Well, it's bound to happen. They grow up like that. I've got a 10-year-old grandson, and yeah, he has his moments, those tween moments, not quite a teen and not quite a kid. And it's kind of joyful to watch. So,
yeah.
All right, I'm going to switch gears on you one more time and see if you have anything to say just in general. I don't want you to share anything you might be working on in the background, but in general, how do you see the rest of this year playing out? The 2024, just the energetics of it. Like, it seems different to me. I mean, every year is different but it seems like it's holding a potential kind of like 2020 did, which really changed a lot of things. And it seems to me like 2024 feels a little like that. I know we've got the eclipse coming up. I mean, there's things happening all around the world, but do you mind giving me just whatever you're willing to share right now, your perspective of the energetics of this year of 2024 a little bit, because I think about it a lot and I wonder what other people like you are thinking about it.
I mean, there's multi-dimensionality involved in people's sovereign right to kind of keep living how they want to keep living. And I'm seeing a lot of that. You know, people have access to this brand new emerging consciousness and they're super excited. People are just seeking magic. They're seeking the wonder. They're seeking out their own soul. They're curious, right? Um, and that is a new emerging consciousness, and that is the consciousness of emergence. And that is the word that was given to me by the Council of Nine that I channel. But it came to me sort of like, you know, flowers popping out of the snow. At the same time, we have this frozen consciousness of our old ways, and we know that it's hard. And the image, I was just talking about this not too long ago on YouTube, where the image that was given to me were all these little vibrational butterflies just moving all around because they had already come from the cocoon, but in the sense of this tiny little sprout emerging from the cold hard ground and the snow, emerging from such old conditioned painful consciousness of the way that you were living, most people were living in 2020. You're emerging, but you're still feeling pretty fresh, and you wanted all of this spiritual magic to surround you, and it's everywhere. And it was like these beautiful butterflies that I've never seen before. They were aquamarine with golden tips around their wings. And there was this, like when they would talk, it was like their breath would emit these little golden particles into the air, and it would invigorate the snow lily. And then the snow lily would feel supported to come out, to spring into the emergence, into the new consciousness. But prior to then, it was like, oh, it's cold, it's cold, it's cold. I don't want in this world anymore. It's so cold. I hear people also saying, I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. And I also want to give this as a message of hope for anyone who does still feel like it's just too much to come out of that cold, frozen, third density, suffering-based life and lifestyle, that sometimes it just feels too much. But you have a magical consciousness that is supporting you, that you can't feel yet because you're still like at the tip of the soil, right? And as you start to spring forth, some people are springing forth very well, you know, but either way, it's the choice of to stay frozen in an old consciousness and to be supported and to come up despite the fact that it is fresh and is new and you feel like a tiny little sprout in a blizzard. It's still, you're so supported, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, a lot of the 3D constructs don't do anything to encourage any of that, right?
They don't.
And in so many ways that spark can just languish unless that's why community is so important.
Yeah.
All you have to do is get around some people, if you can, even online, who have some of these interests in keeping this magic in their day-to-day life. And you'd be surprised how that brings it into your own life. But if you surround yourself with people and spend most of your time with people who don't do any of that at all, it is a lot harder. It's a lot harder.
Yeah.
It's been a long, long time since I've been around people for lengthy times who don't you know, apply and think about that in their own lives. You know, my family and my friends and my colleagues and students and all that. And I'm in that all the time. And then every once in a while, I'm out in the world where I am reminded that not everyone lives that way. And even today at the gym, and believe me, I talk a lot to my trainer and my partner. We talk a lot, and I learn from them. And I always give my perspective on that. And as we were leaving and I was mentioning something, and Jack turned at me and he says, you know, he goes, you have a really different way of thinking about things. And I laughed. And he's like, no, I don't mean it as an insult. I'm like, I'm not taking it as an insult at all, you know? And my partner, Kim, said the same thing. She was like, yeah. And they were both kind of like really smiling at that. And it didn't seem so off to me, meaning in our world, right? You know, and some of the things that we think about. But I have to remember that, you know, most people still, and the majority of people aren't there, but there's more and more all the time.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. No, and it comes about that you're shining your light, and reaching people in ways that you have no idea. And for example, something happened at my rink a couple, like last week or the week before, and it was really amazing. I've never seen anything like it. Like my daughter was sick. Somebody else was like, my daughter was sick, and then I had an extra lesson, and then I had a lesson on top of that. So I had all this time that I took my daughter's lesson, and then I had these other two that were kind of together with 40 minutes. So I'm like, I got like an hour. Never had that much time, particularly not with my secondary coach. I have it with my primary one sometimes, but not the secondary one. So I thought I'm gonna take advantage of this and wonder. And I said, I wonder if there's a way. Maybe Nico hasn't had a lesson, give him one. And she hasn't had a lesson, give her one. And she just stopped and she goes, let me think about that. And I wonder if there's a way where we could all benefit. And what she ended up doing was pulling us all on the ice and giving us a group lesson together.
Wonderful.
And then at the end of the lesson, we kind of came and we circled around and we started talking about like our dreams and our goals and things that surprised us about our path. And we were like, without using the vocabulary, we were talking about fifth dimensional consciousness.
Right.
And I could feel it. And then we ended in like, kind of this like love and light group hug, and that, which I also didn't expect. I'll hug the people at my rink, and really, I mean, so that was exceptional. And I'm like, did we just have like a little spiritual soiree, like on the ice? Like what just happened here?
I like that. I give myself the challenge is not the right word, opportunity. I give myself the opportunity because I'm having to stand in line at the grocery store like a regular person. And I always look around and I try to see what I can do in a line at the grocery store. Sometimes it's just looking at somebody and smiling. Sometimes it's saying something to somebody. Sometimes it's noticing something else. Sometimes it's, and that's been a fun little way that I think about my trips to the grocery store rather than a drudgery or whatever. And it's just surprising what can come out. Bits of wisdom or openness or connection you can have with other humans that may not on the outside look like they're aligned with anything that you might be thinking or talking about or whatever. But and it's been rare that it's been rebuffed. That's the part that I think I love more than anything, Pamela, is when I do this with people. It's very, very rare that people are like, ew, don't talk to me or whatever, it just doesn't happen. I mean, there's always something that happens that I find fascinating and that feeds kind of my human connection with others. And even though I'm a country girl and I like going home to the country, when I have to go into the city, I try to do that with
people. Yeah, no, like that's the operative word that you use there, connection. And I'm seeing, like, I'd say what you were referring to back with 2020 and an opportunity. I have had a lot of, this is how I can tell with prophecy and prophetic predictions, what's coming, a lot of repeats of choices for a new illness, so to speak. And this is going to be on YouTube, so I can't talk much about it, but it also felt like there was a choice in that to be aligned with the belief that you could be afraid of that and to have it directly affect you physically and physiologically, to have your work affected, to have all this beautiful hard work that you've done since 2020 and to kind of revert backwards, like push the time back was the symbol that I got, was the clock going backwards. But not only was it going backwards, then it started the other option was breaking the mold. I got this clock and it was going backwards to 2020. Choice, guys, choice. Remember, sovereignty, do not consent, right? And then the fifth dimensional version, the clock was spinning and it wasn't necessarily feeling like it was forward or backward. It was just all over the place. And it was like, and then the clock just exploded. And that was the metaphor of the vision that I got for the fifth dimensional choice, is just to break the time constructs that bind you to disempowering choices like that outcome. So despite the fact that I continue to see that, whatever it is, that thing, that potential for an illness that could affect a lot of people, I also see a potential for something else, like two potentials happening simultaneously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that right there is probably the most perfectly connected to exactly what I see happening this year than anything else we've talked about this whole hour. We've been together an hour now. That's exactly how I see it, you know.
Yeah.
And I know that there are some people who it's like a numbers game to them. Well, we need more people who can think this way. And I think that's, you know, there's some validity to that. But I also know that you can't talk anyone into any of this.
No, you can't.
That's just not the way this works.
You know,
I'm way more of an observer about it. And I just remain very, very optimistic. I mean, I still, especially just even like the last couple days, it seems like something's lifted and that fifth dimensional option
I have felt
seems
that too.
more, yeah.
Yeah, and
Seems
that's
more
when
available.
yesterday was when I got that emerging like
Really?
butterfly thing. It was yesterday when I was getting ready to go
Oh,
on YouTube, and I saw this vision of like the snow and the firmness of the 3D with
yeah.
where we are, and then like those of us wanting to come up, like being deeply supported and not seeing what's on the surface, but feeling the vibration of what's on the surface and leaning towards it, like looking like that little flower had her little head up and she was like looking at the light going, you know, I'm here. I'm here. I believe this. I trust this. I'm coming. Despite the fact that she was still afraid, she also was still moving forward, feeling supported. And when the flower reached the surface, these butterflies, there's this beautiful color of like aqua and teal and coral and all these things that like if all those colors were blended, it's not going to make any sense because the 3D I can't see what I saw. And then there were like these golden linings around the edge of the butterfly wings.
Beautiful.
When they would breathe, when they would breathe, the flower would also breathe. So it was a merging of breath. That was one of the things coming in, like in and out of various potentials for consciousness. But the breath, was really important that for emergence, that breath and the butterflies were breathing these little droplets of golden breath into the air around the snow lily. And she was, you know, taking a breath, coming up for air and just really trusting it and breathing in those golden particles into and being supported by it.
That's so fabulous that all of that happened for you yesterday. I got a real nice connection with Dolores yesterday too, after a kind of a not so great Monday I had, you know, and then the Tuesday was just absolutely fabulous. And I'm feeling so much better since then. And it just, I can't tell you how comforting it is to align with you in these beautiful ways. It has been so much fun to catch up with you, Pamela. I love you.
Love you too.
Michigan from Kansas. You're just as far away as you were when you were in Utah, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, someday, you know, I just put another call out for more care. I have two ladies who help me, but it's not 24/7. So I'm still looking for people, and it may have to, if I'm going to sleep at all, I'm going to have to find somebody somehow. So I'm still doing that. But once I can really, really do that, maybe some travel will open up for me at some point and I can come visit you and your lovely wife, who I've yet to, of course, hug in person. Please tell her hello for me.
I will. She just adores you and she loves your work, Jen, as well.
She's something, I can just tell. And I'm very, very glad to know that she's in your world and in your life. Give her my best.
I will.
All right. Okay. So I think I'm going to call it a close for today, as there are other things to do. And I only have a little bit more time before, you know, my chariot turns into a pumpkin. I only get that kind of time. Take care. All right. So for those of you who are watching, Pamela Aaralyn has been instrumental and influential in inspiring me with a great big component of the BQH course, actually, the water component. We bring a version of water alchemy into BQH that was absolutely inspired by my dear friend Pamela, and it harkens back to some of what we've talked today about water. And I just want to thank you. And you can find Pamela Aaralyn at
PamelaAaralyn.com and my YouTube channel at Pamela Aaralyn.
There you go. All right. And so if you are looking for a quantum healer, or you're interested in learning about quantum healing or other fine things like that, please come visit us at quantumhealers.com. Thanks, everybody. Bye for now.